All right, so uh, have you heard about this? A whole terminal, like an entire terminal at an airport, locked up.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild situation, right?
It is. And I mean, it's not like a little regional airport we're talking about. This is Macdan Aviation, private jets at Ghana Airport. And the reason, debt,
Unpaid rent, to be exact.
rent. Imagine the rent on a place like that.
Well, the letter we've got here, it's from the Ghana Airport Company Limited, GACL. It says they owe, hold on, let me get this right,
This is serious money, right?
over $3 million.
Whoa, $3 million. Okay, so that's a lot of missed payments. That's more than just like forgetting to send a check.
Right, and it makes you think, what's going on behind the scenes here? This isn't just about Macdan, is it?
I think you're onto something. We're going to deep dive into this.
That's the plan.
Cool. So we're looking at Macdan, aviation, big debt, terminal shutdown. What is it about Ghana Airport that makes this such a big deal?
Well, Ghana Airport, think of it as a hub, you know? For West Africa, it's kind of a gateway, a lot of international traffic, and of course, private jets play a big role.
Makes sense. The more I read about private aviation in Africa, it's like this whole other world.
No, absolutely. It's booming. You've got this growing economy. More and more people want to travel in style, so demand for private jets, it's through the roof.
So is Macdan just caught in some growing pains then?
Could be, but it's not always smooth skies, you know? I mean, there are reports of some real headwinds in the industry. Regulations can be tricky. Infrastructure's not always up to par. And then there's the whole economic picture, right? Instability in one country can ripple out across the region.
Okay, so yeah, Macdan might be dealing with more than just its own internal stuff. But back to that rent, that rentals line item in the GACL letter, as if it were just any other bill. What are we even talking about here? How do you rack up millions in rent for a terminal? What are they, gold plating the waiting areas?
Well, it's not quite that fancy, but private jet terminals, they aren't cheap to run. Landing fees are just the tip of the iceberg.
Right, because you got to pay those every time a plane lands, right?
Exactly, and in Ghana, they're pretty reasonable compared to some other places in Africa, actually, though I did read that they've gone up a bit recently, so maybe that's adding to the pressure.
Okay, but still, millions.
Think about it. There's so much that goes into it, right? You've got ground handling, all that stuff that happens around the plane, the loading, unloading, refueling.
Right, right.
Then you've got staff, a whole team of people to run the place, and maintenance. Keeping those facilities top-notch, it doesn't come cheap. And let's not forget fuel prices. They can fluctuate like crazy, and that hits aviation companies hard.
Wow, okay, so yeah, I guess it all adds up. But it's still hard to wrap my head around a shutdown like this. I mean, imagine the people affected. Macdan's employees, their clients.
Oh, absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in the numbers, but there are real people on the other side of this. Those high-flying execs used to jetting off whenever they please, suddenly they're grounded.
Ouch, yeah. Not the kind of disruption they're used to.
Exactly. And the employees, the pilots, ground crew, all the folks working behind the scenes, this is their livelihood. They've got families to support. It really puts a human face on the whole situation.
It makes you realize, even in the world of luxury travel, everyone's vulnerable to these kinds of shocks. Okay, so we've got a sense of how Macdan got here, but what about the future? Can they recover from this?
That's the big question, isn't it? They're in a deep hole, but they do have assets. They've been operating for a while, so there's potential, right? Maybe this is a wake-up call, a chance to restructure, rethink how they do business.
Especially given all the unique challenges we talked about in African aviation.
Exactly. But it's also a reminder, a bit of a cautionary tale maybe, that even in a booming industry, you can't take anything for granted. You need to manage your finances carefully, no matter how successful you seem.
So we've gone from a locked-up terminal to a much wider discussion about the state of private aviation.
That's the beauty of these deep dives, isn't it? You never know where they'll lead.
And this one leaves us with a lot to think about. What's next for Macdan, for Terminal 1? Will other private jet companies see this and think, hey, we need to double-check our own books? It's possible this whole event could have a ripple effect on the entire industry, at least in Africa.
Well, that's something to watch for sure. And for our listeners, if you have any insights, we'd love to hear them. Thanks for joining us on another deep dive. Until next time.
See you then.